Hey everybody, this is Hercules Penix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the Hercules Penix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at the Cowboy Wally Show, a 1988 graphic novel written and drawn by Kyle Baker. Kyle Baker's kind of an interesting figure in comics. In the early 80s, he started drawing for Marvel, penciling and inking, like totally mainstream stuff, like the New Mutants and X-Men. And he just seemed like a Marvel worker bee. But he always had a style that was definitely different. It wasn't your typical Marvel style. And, in 1988, I guess he just decided to make this graphic novel. I don't know if it was on spec, but this was published by a mainstream book publisher. Nothing to do with the comic industry. Kind of an amazing pivot he took there. And pretty much ever since, that's what he's been doing. He doesn't draw like monthly comics much at all. Every now and then he'll do a story here and there. But this was his first one, and pretty much changed his career. Nice cover here. I really love, I miss his early illustrative style, more illustrative. I mean, obviously, there's some cartooniness here. But within like maybe 10 years after this, he had a very cartoony style. And like in both sense of the word, like literally like animated cartoons, but also less illustrative. And I like that style too. But I kind of miss this old style because I really like it. It's very appealing. Chapter 1, The Cowboy Wally Legend. And we can see by his art, like Kyle Baker had this just amazing style with just like a few lines, a few squiggles of his pen. He could make almost photorealistic effects. Like there's some part of this that almost looks like photorealistic, but it's not belabored. It's not like he's putting in all these crazy lines, It's just he had a very unique style. So the book constantly has these little, they're almost like reviews from TV Guide or something. Sorry, I should do this. And the book is basically centered around almost like a Spinal Tap type format where Cowboy Wally is being interviewed. It's like a mockumentary. And we see all of the various projects, television shows and movies that Cowboy Wally has worked on. Nice drawing there. So we even have the illusion that you're watching a movie. And another nice full-page drawing. Kind of reminiscent of the cover, but different. So here's the guy who's going to be like the host of this this documentary. And he's going to go interview Cowboy Wally. So, I mean, look at his eyes, for example. Very it almost looks like a photo really like reduced down. Maybe on a copy machine many generations removed. But it's just a little flourish of his pen. He goes to Cowboy Wally's mansion. He meets his butler, Carol. So the dialogue in here, almost every panel has a joke. It's like he doesn't let up. And he's got a good ear for comedy, like just the banter back and forth. Like Cowboy Wally is a perfect comic foil. He's like just a boisterous dumbass. And so he's a font of humor. And this guy's kind of critical of Cowboy Wally. He's not just giving him a puff interview. He's kind of like, oh yeah, that movie kind of was terrible. What do you say about that? He's also kind of like a vainglorious, kind of a blowhard. I guess he's almost like a W.C. Fields character. But overall, though, he kind of comes off as very affable. He's kind of likable. He's a likable buffoon. We find out that he got his whole career. He was just a photographer. But he got his start in show business because he had pictures of a producer with his 13-year-old niece. That's all he says. And this producer was so impressed that he offered him $10,000 cash in his own television series. So his first show was Cowboy Wally's Shoot 'em Up Laugh Riot, 1974. And it was a kid show. And of course, it was Cowboy Wally just can't help himself. He's a degenerate. So it had like sexy showgirls on it. He's just drinking beer the whole time. Of course, parents protested and said, this is not suitable for children. So the network just moved it to prime time, the same exact show. So Wally's lawyer shows up. I'm sorry, his manager, Saul. And now we get into his next show, Cowboy Wally and the West Pecos Mounted Armada. Just such a great title, even though it's nonsense. He's definitely a good wordsmith, Cal Baker. We see the announcer of the show, and we find out that they didn't get along, and apparently Wally had to fire him. We see the incident that led to the firing. I guess this announcer was just a normal intelligence level person. So just working with Wally just drove him crazy because Wally's such a moron. And one day he just couldn't control himself. And he slugged Wally. Wally was singing a cowboy song about a hoochie coochie girl from Singapore. And he was just like, what kind of cowboy song is that? And he slugs Wally. And that's what led to his firing. Now we see he had a game show, Cowboy Wally's Trivia Lotto. And almost all these pages are just like a single little, they could be a skit on Saturday Night Live, you know? Like some clever little thing. In this one of the guests just keeps yelling out the answer before he's even done with the question, and his answer is always sex. He's like, please wait till I'm finished the question. It's almost like the half-wits on the CTV, you know? So then I guess that didn't do well. So he directed his first movie, Ed Smith, Lizard of Doom. And it's just like a kaiju type movie. There's a nice drawing there. And then he starts Cowboy Wally's Rough Up Theater, which was just Tales of the Old West, of real men. We see this one cowboy, left hook, jab, right cross, combination, uppercut. And this other guy says, Mister, where I come from, them's fighting words. Some of you might be groaning. I thought that was a pretty clever gag. I mean, it's full of them. Some of the jokes are a little corny, but some of them are really like, wow, I never heard that one before. Look at the face there, though. That is amazing to me. I love his drawing. Cowboy Wally's also like a greedy guy. He's like always sponsoring stuff. He has all this line of products, trail mix, beer, beef jerky. He slaps his face and name on everything. He opens an amusement park. Of course, there's lawsuits involved. Children were getting hurt. And we see that he's not even he has no talent at all. In this one, he's on his show trying to tell a joke, and he's like the worst joke teller. He's screwing up the joke left and right. But I guess everyone just loves him, because I guess that cute little face of his, you know, with that big smile, and he's just an everyman, you know? And I guess he talks about a big scandal in Wally's career. He had a Christmas special in 1979. And there's a scene where they're gathered around the Christmas meal, and Wally was giving thanks, the Christmas prayer, and his mouth was full. And this causes a huge scandal that he said his prayers, said grace with his mouth full. There's even a congressional hearing about it. It's so silly. And he tries to charm his way out of it. He's reading a book called Things Lincoln Probably Would Have Said. This guy kind of looks like Mike Wallace with bigger ears. They even bring in a nun to testify against him. This is kind of a running sight gag they have throughout. Like, he just drinks so many beers, they're just piling up all around him. So then his TV show hits a new high because of the scandal. His ratings go through the roof. And then he starts his own network in the mid-'80s. And so this gives Kyle Baker an opportunity to just almost, once again, like these little skits, showing ads for the various shows. This one's making fun of cop shows. It's very dated. It's very, like, kind of Miami Vice-y. And there's a dog show, The Adventures of Rusty. Definitely making fun of that whole Lassie thing. Like, Rusty's trying to tell us something, I think. And the dog actually is saying, excuse me. But nobody ever listens to the dog. They had a popular soap called Medical Hospital. Of course, everyone ends with an ad, since it's commercial TV. Even as the news reader on the news show. And I would love to read this comic, if they made a comic of it. This kid's show called The Glutes. And it's just like sickeningly clawing cute. I don't know if it was making fun of the Smurfs. But it looks more like EC Cigar. Like old-timey, like Mutt and Jeff cartooning. Science fiction show called Owl Space. And a lot of this definitely seems more dated too. Because this kind of like mean humor has just become mainstream. In 1988, it wasn't. Like, most sitcoms are all sweet and nice. But, you know, this is that, like, humor where, like, Owl Space here, he's, you know, he looks like this great space hero like Flash Gordon, but he's a total degenerate. Like, telling kids how to make money illicitly and illegally. And he has this, like, this is a definitely dated joke. You couldn't get away with this now. But it's almost like he's asking the kids to do an essay contest. Basically to help him, like, get out of trouble. In 1,000 words or less, give a believable account of Owl Space's whereabouts on the eve of September 15th. And then one of them is, in 1,000 words or less, describe how Amy Sue Sturtfetzer looked much older than 12. It's like, oh man, that is some nasty stuff. So nasty that I think now you couldn't say it. He tells a kid to jam a nickel into a light socket because he pisses him off. So it's, you know, that kind of humor, that was like kind of new then. I still think it's kind of fun. Still funny stuff. Deep Sea Theater. Oh, this one's just a bunch of groaners here. Oh, there's one I missed here. Brought to you by Vito's Olive Oil, Health Tonic. You'll buy it if you want to stay healthy. I thought that was pretty clever. And definitely a lot of these jokes are just dated, like if you didn't grow up in this time. Like, they just had a joke about rice-a-roni, which that was like always offered on game shows. It was like, runners-up will win a rice-a-roni. But I don't even know if people eat rice-a-roni anymore. So then he goes on to make a major motion picture called Sands of Blood. And so now we get a major chapter in the book, just basically illustrating the movie, almost like the adaptation, comic book adaptation of it. He worked with this guy, Lenny. Lenny's a character and he's going to be a character throughout this book. And he wrote it, and they both star in it. It's a French Foreign Legion type movie, but Wally was in charge of the research, so it's really inept. This whole scene here where this guy's shipping out to France to join the Legion, he meets this woman, and just this page of sort of banter back and forth. Like, he's trying to hit on her, but very poorly. very nervously, and she's kind of razzing him. It's just really good comedy writing. You don't see this often in comics. It really does flow like a really funny, comedy writer on TV or movies. So here we get this is the adaptation of the movie. Though a lot of the shtick of this is that the joke that basically everyone who's in the French Foreign Legion went there, joined up, just to escape some heartbreak they had. A relationship didn't work out, so they were so crestfallen that they were like, I might as well just join the French Foreign Legion, which was a cliche. And so it's just this running gag where it's like, fill out your name, birth, place of residence, and what's the name of the woman who broke your heart. And then he gives him a balloon when he's done. He's like, here, have a balloon. It doesn't make any sense. And when we look at the barracks, everyone's got a balloon. It's not a plot point. It's just this, every now and then he just throws in some funny, absurd shit like that. Of course, all the guys in the barracks are pining over a photo of some woman who broke their heart. And then their commandant comes in, played by Cowboy Wally. And, he's saying stuff like, how's your girlfriend's eyes today, Blue? Like the Danube they are, sir. Ah, sir, Madeline's eyes were like, so they just sit around all day describing their former girlfriend's eyes and their lips and, trying to be poetic. So this is just totally silly humor where the fort's being attacked. And Wally says, yeah, I guess you guys got to get out there and, fight these guys. And they're like, wait, normally we just lock the fort. It's a fort, right? Can't we just lock the door? And they're like, no, you got to go. So they come back with their asses whooped. And then Wally's all like, I can't believe you guys believe me. If I told you to jump off the Brooklyn Bridge, would you? And, look at some of these faces. So good. So once again, the guys decide to just go fight. They're like, and they're really not fighting. Most of them are just like, hey, shoot me. Look, I'm here. Because they're all just so depressed about being, heartbroken. But one guy, this is played by the guy who co-wrote the movie. I already forgot his name. I'll get back to it. Lester, Lenny. He decides that his character is all like, you guys just sit down. Stop trying to kill yourselves. I'll take care of these guys. And he just starts picking them off one by one. And then the guys are like, hey, that looks kind of fun. Can I have a gun? He's like, no, you'll hurt yourselves. As he slowly kills all the enemy. And once again, just all this dialogue, it's all pretty damn well written. It's good stuff. So back in the locker rooms, I guess the French Foreign Legion has locker rooms. They're all like, all the guys are excited. They're like, wow, we won the battle. We're like real men now. They're all basically feeling their testosterone. So they're like, we should do real guy stuff. We should maybe go out and get drunk at a bar. That's what real guys do, right? So they go to this bar, and they'll start hitting on women. Okay, not yet. They're heading to the bar. And at the bar, they'll start hitting on women. And actually, even though they're all morons who have no play, no game, they actually seem to succeed. All these women kind of are catching the woo that they're pitching. And that main character, the one who killed all the enemy, he actually gets two women chatting him up. Even though he's very inept. He's terrible at, hitting on women. And they have this weird little interview where, I guess the less attractive friend just does this whole, opens her heart and says, oh, yeah, you probably hate yourself for being more attracted to Fifi for me just because she's prettier. And you're probably just talking to me to be nice, this whole, neurotic thing. But he still ends up, wooing him. Back at the barracks, they're all just so pleased with themselves. They're like, wow, we all got girls. We are men. I think if this was a movie, I'd probably see it. And then near the end, the enemy attack again, and it looks like they're all finished. And they're like, should we surrender? Maybe if we surrender, they won't kill us. And apparently they'd rather kill them. So they're all getting ready to die, and they're all making the Cowboy Wally's character makes a speech, the commandant, like this brave speech of like, fight is what we must do. You know, we have no choice but to go down fighting, and, you know, those kind of speeches. And then he slaps his head and says, wait a minute. This is a fort. All we have to do is lock the door. We're not going to all die. And that's the end. Once again, guys, I've said this before when, you know, looking at funny stuff. I'm not funny. I'm not good at describing humor. So whatever I'm telling you, imagine it being 50 times funnier. Because this is pretty damn clever and funny, but I'm probably not conveying it that well with my secondhand account. Next, we have Chapter 3, The Making of Hamlet. And this is even more of a buffoonish effort. He tells the interview about the genesis of it, and he actually fires the interviewer at this point because the guy keeps asking pointed questions. And now we have one of those little reviews once again. All their reviews are very positive. Like basically he's saying, oh yeah, his version of Hamlet's wonderful. It's avant-garde. But really it's just moronic. So here's a little interlude of Cowboy Wally talking about, you know, working on the film and planning the film. I kind of like this one where these guys in the background. So I guess one of the critics said he minces churlishly. That's what he criticized Cowboy Wally, his role. And the guys in the background like, sure you do. You mince churlishly. I've seen you mince, Wally. It's not unlike that of a churl. That's Barry and Fred, our soundmen. We're not soundmen. Then shut up. I hope some of you aren't shaking their heads going like, that's stupid. And maybe it is, but I kind of think it's hilarious. And so here's that guy, Lenny, his co-writer. And I guess they haven't worked together since Sands of Blood. But he tries to get Lenny to help him out on this new project. I guess the critics like Lenny's stuff a lot. They actually thought he did a pretty good script and was a pretty good actor. So basically they're going to go meet some producers who are going to put up the money. Lenny's kind of a sad sack. So at this restaurant, they meet the producers. These two guys, I kind of like their caricatures here. There's one huge guy and this little tiny guy. This is Mr. Hib Wishman and Mr. Harrison Bicarbonate of Wishman Bicarbonate Films. They're a major studio. So the producers say, hey, we got scripts. We like what you guys do. Any of these scripts, if you want to, you know, turn them into movies, we'd be thrilled. They only have like a week to make it. They're describing all these crappy movie ideas. They're all pretty funny. They're all pretty dead-on satire of the kind of shit that was coming out in the late 80s. Kind of like sexy thrillers and stuff like that. And then Lenny, as a joke, suggests that they do a remake of Hamlet. And the producers totally go for it. Because all they hear is, oh, it's about a guy who has to get revenge for his father's death. So they don't even know what Hamlet is. They picture it's going to be like some awesome action movie. But then Lenny's like, I was just joking. He's like, no, we're going to do this Hamlet. And instantly Lenny regrets it. He's just like, oh, you're going to butcher it. It's going to be a travesty. And Wally wants to play Hamlet. They talk to the producer some more, and every suggestion they have is just crass and like completely, you know, they're a bunch of Philistines, you know. This running gag about how Lenny's got this cough, and the little guy here is just like, oh, just put some Vicks on your lip. I wear it like perfume. I love the smell. Just all this silly, ridiculous stuff. They're kind of giving him shit, too, for being such a sourpuss. He's like, you know, I'm not sad. I'm tormented. I'm an artist. He's kind of a pretentious guy. So they end up in jail after the meeting. They don't even remember what they did. Apparently they had a few too many drinks. And this is kind of a weird aside here. So the whole time they're trying to figure out what happened. Apparently there's film of it even. And so they decide to film the movie in jail. There's a guard who's a big Cowboy Wally fan. So he like lets them smuggle a camera in, and kind of he even like the guy who was making the documentary film, he gets arrested just so he can join Wally and Lenny in jail so he can keep filming them, and the guard makes sure that he gets put in the same cell. This is a great concept. Making a movie while you're incarcerated. So they get some of their cellmates to be the actors. They totally befriend them. I guess they're kind of Wally fans too. And he's trying to rile up Lenny. Lenny's just lying in bed, all pissed off about the whole thing. Leave me alone, I'm carving a bar of soap into a file. And so here we, oh no, the movie hasn't started yet, sorry. But he's talking to his new actors, his cellmates. I guess Wally has a copy of the film of their transgression, and he's showing it off to people. I guess it was such an exciting night that it's almost like he can use it to bribe people. It's like, I'll let you look at the film if, you know, do this for us. So Wally and Lenny have a debate about destroying Hamlet, and Wally kind of uses that argument, you know, it's like, people don't even understand Shakespeare. I'm going to make it so your average American can understand the story. And he kind of does this anti-intellectual diatribe, which actually doesn't sound that ludicrous. And so now we see the movie. They use cutouts for a lot of the scenes. And of course, it's Hamlet, but totally written in vernacular. And very goofy and funny, you know. So we kind of fluctuate between the movie and them making the movie, the behind the scenes. And then, this is very odd here. The publisher fucked up, and there is like, this is a repeat of the last, I don't know, 14, 18 pages. I was reading this, I was like, wait, am I that drunk? I was reading this last night. I'm like, I'm having deja vu. It's such a major mistake. I can't believe they did this. Like, it really adds a lot of heft to the book. It's a very expensive mistake. Okay, and I think now we're back to where we were. Let me double check real quick. Yeah. So like I said, it's just more hijinks about making the movie. A lot of funny stuff. I like this, how they need someone to play the queen, and the only woman in prison is this female guard. So they say, hey, would you read this letter from my mother? I want to hear it in a woman's voice. It's basically the dialogue of the scene. And then they put this like crown on her head, like just pieces of paper. I thought it was so funny. And she, she's reading the letter and it's her dialogue. The scene where she's explaining to Hamlet about like why she married her brother-in-law. And here's Wally's Hamlet. They got costumes smuggled in. Other things are drawn, like they don't have bottles. So they just draw them. It's weird, like reading this, I kind of think it would be a pretty good Hamlet. It says it's 20 minutes long. That's how much he bowdlerized it. But it does give you the gist of the story of Hamlet in a very, like, funny, entertaining way. I guess I'm a Philistine, too. Some of these panels of Cowboy Wally, like, I really see that thing where, like, that is literally just like a quick thing of the pen, but that's such a good eye. Like, his face looks so good, but it's so minimalistic. He just, that's a rare skill. And so Hamlet's over. And, of course, the critics did not like it. Now we see Cowboy Wally's Late Night Celebrity Showdown. And this is his talk show he had, like Johnny Carson type. So before that happens, though, we see that interviewer who got fired leaving. I find this so interesting how many cartoonists do this when they want to do like a plaid jacket. They just do like straight lines that don't make any sense physically. Because, of course, they would curve around your arm or the wrinkles. But it looks sometimes it like almost works where your eye tricks you into just being like, oh yeah, that looks right. But sometimes it does not, especially when it has this incongruous alignment with the curtains. That panel, I was just like, what's going on here? That looked very odd to me. I don't even know why I brought that up. It's not really worth mentioning. And so now we have the late night talk show. And this is like the big finale. Just lots of jokes. And the first person on is this actress named Linda Mason, who I guess is the hot shit. She's a huge actress in this world. And she's a huge Cowboy Wally fan. In fact, all of the sexist things he says and kind of dopey things, she thinks like, oh, I think the way you lampoon typical outmoded sexual stereotypes is brilliant. So he just keeps saying like kind of sexist things. And she keeps laughing like, oh, that is such a good satirization of the mentality of the motion picture industry. So she's going to show a clip from our new film. But he's like, nah, I want to show a clip from your 1981 classic, Rita Merkel, Leather Barbarian Girl. Which I guess is like her first role. And it was some trashy barbarian movie. And she's like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. She wanted to forget it, But she still loves him. She still keeps just saying like she says, I love the thing you do with the beer. Brilliant. And he's like, oh, the way I drink a lot of it? And she's like, yeah, how did you come up with that? We keep seeing these ads for Cowboy Wally beer. And they're just like manly beer from manly men. God damn. And then we see some dumb gags. And then all of a sudden, someone comes on the set and shoots one of the guests. And it's that announcer from the first 20 pages who Wally fired after he smacked him. And I guess all that time he's been planning his revenge. So he's on the show and he wants to humiliate Wally. And basically he wants Wally to admit, you know, all the people he's ruined, what a terrible person he is. Of course, it's Kyle Baker writing it, so it just turns into this daffy, just back and forth dialogue. I really like this part where Linda's like, is this a sketch? Is this a skit? And he's like, no, this is not a skit. The whole time the guy's ranting, but then they just keep chatting amongst themselves. He's like, well, you know, you would have ruined it if it was a skit by asking if it was a skit. And it just becomes this silly banter dialogue, which is actually kind of funny. So then there's this old cowboy on. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned. He somehow pacifies his old announcer. He basically just says, oh, fuck. He says, have a seat. Then this old cowboy comes on. Totally looks like Lee Marvin gone to seed. And Wally's totally ribbing him and kind of insinuating stuff about him. And then we find out that he was a big TV star back in the 60s, and young Wally tried out for his show. This cowboy, old cowboy, didn't hire him. And so Wally got revenge by slandering him in public. And apparently it worked. And this old singing cowboy lost his, everything. His fame went into the dumpster. And so he reveals that he's terminally ill and he's going to die at midnight. He knows this because he had a chemist make a poison that'll kill him at exactly midnight. But so this is his revenge against Wally. It's pretty dumb. He says, I'm going to die on your show, but you'll never have a chance to promote it. Like, you could have made so much money off of this. So that's my revenge. And then, of course, the actress says, well, we could just air this later. It's on videotape. And the poor old singing cowboy's like, oh, I forgot about that. So he dies, actually, before midnight. And Wally starts pounding on his chest. And even the actress, who's his fan, they're like, oh, my God, stop. You monster, what are you doing? He's a dead man. Turns out he was faking. God, some of this caricature, I love the way he draws this old singing cowboy. Really good caricature, cartooning. And so he goes off stage to die. He says, well, I'm going to deny you my on-screen death. While he tries to drag him back out, but he fails. He can't do it. And then the actress finally realizes that, Wally isn't what she cracked him up to be. And then it turns out that they went to high school together. She was the popular girl. Wally had a crush on her. He's mortified. And it turns out she's like, well, actually, I kind of thought you were cute. I was wondering why you never talked to me. So everything always comes up Wally, no matter what a moron he is. And just a big fat dummy. Meanwhile, the whole time, the old guy's in the back just saying, I'm dying. I'm dying. A lot of this stuff reminds me of like Monty Python sketches in Old Saturday Night Live. So it looks like Wally and Linda are going to hook up, have a date. And that the announcer guy just starts whining and saying, nothing ever goes wrong for me. And he says, when I was 6, my father left me. He said I had a long-lost twin brother who has the other half of this broken medallion. But I'll never find him. And Wally says, wait a second, I've got half a medallion too. And they put them together. And Wally says, nah, it doesn't fit. And then that's the end of that, at least that part of the showing off his late night show. And then we have a little epilogue. And Wally's talking to his butler. And that's it. A little write up in the back. And there you go for Cowboy Wally Show. I know humor is very subjective. You could have been watching this today and just been like, God, this is stupid. Greg's an idiot. But I gotta say, I haven't read this in 25 years, and I had a really good time last night reading it. I was chuckling to myself a lot. He's pretty good at humor. It's not like this kind of humor I normally like. Like, I like more absurdist stuff like Michael Kupperman and guys like that, Kim Deitch. But there's some funny stuff, and I love the art. It's beautiful. I love the way he draws back then. He doesn't draw like this anymore, and I doubt he ever will. So there you go, guys. Kyle Baker's The Cowboy Wally Show. Hope you enjoyed looking at it, and I hope to see you next time here at the Hercules Penix Academy of Comic Book Studies.